Alright guys, what is up? Hunter x Hunter episode 119, Strong or Weak. This is going to be my first review, so here's to looking back about a year from now and just thinking, what was I doing? So, a lot of stuff happened in this episode. Well, not as much as the past episodes, but it would have been nice if I could start from the start, like when they just rushed and but here we are now. So first thing that happened was Killua versus Yuppie. Now it was short, but still like the one of the best scenes that I've seen in Hunter x Hunter so far, because this is where Killua reveals one of his new techniques, which was Godspeed or Kameru, which is basically where he uses his lightning ability to push his body further to be able to do things a lot faster and to be able to move a lot faster than he usually does. Now, what was cool about that was while he was just beating down on Yuppie, this guy couldn't even react, and the narrator was explaining that what's actually going on is that it's not just Killua being able to move a lot faster, but he's entirely relying on instinct, because they said that his moves were set in two different ways, which was the speed of lightning, which allowed him to move that fast, and whirlwind, which is where he just naturally is able to dodge attacks based on his aura, like how he stopped the dart back when he was fighting those two fish chimera ants. And then he has a predetermined attack ready. So he dodges the attack and then he will attack in return, but it's not entirely like he has complete control over what's going on, but he's just reacting. But I think what was scary about this was Yuppie. He said none of these guys have more than 10% of my raw power. And what's scary about that is while Killua was still beating him down, and you can even see it, but he's hardly taking any damage at all, which means even if Killua wanted to finish him off, then it seems kind of obvious that he's not able to. And then what makes Yuppie even scarier is how the narrator says, this is just paraphrasing, but the narrator basically says, Yuppie will make an unbelievable choice, but not until later. That means that what we're looking at now is Yuppie has been just basically fighting people on and off. People have come, they've attacked him, and then they've run away. But he hasn't had a consistent fight to this point. But he's slowly beginning to understand everyone's abilities. He's slowly beginning to understand what goes on with Nen in general. And he's enjoying himself a lot because of it. Because even though he's not necessarily able to fight back all the time, even though he's not even entirely sure what's going on, then he's still finding that these battles are fun to him. And this is only happening because after his explosion, he's learned to control his range. So what we're seeing is Yuppie slowly going through an entire character change, maybe. He's still in debt to the king, but it's not like he's always bored. And he finally has a purpose, which is interesting because you see how Pitou was like the guard. Poof was the entertainment, because you always saw him sitting around playing his violin while the king was around. But Yuppie was just there. But now that he's come to the realization that his job is to protect the king, he's not there on lookout, he's not there as entertainment. His main purpose is entirely and fully to make sure nothing happens to the king. Ever since he realized this, then he's become a lot more of a threat, as you saw when he almost managed to take out Knuckle, because Knuckle had the idea that when he's gonna explode I can hit him, and Yuppie already figured out I can control this and make sure that he can't hit him. So it's gonna be interesting to see exactly what decision Yuppie's gonna come to that's so incredible that they actually had to point this out maybe an episode or two before. But what was beautiful about it though was just that moment where Killua's ability runs out and he just does like Knuckle and takes off, and UP's just like, nope, get back here, runs after him, and it's like, it was funny how it's like, I got him, I'm beating that ass, and then nope, I'm out, I'm done, I've had my fun, I'm calm now, and he leaves. And UP runs after him, but because of Meradon, then Killua's already disappeared, and he doesn't understand what's going on. But the worrying part about that is, while UP was trying to figure out what happened, then you saw that black mark that Shoot left on him, on his shoulder, it disappeared. So I don't know if Shoot cancelled his ability because he fell unconscious. I don't know if Shoot is dead because they never explained like if his ability can disappear after he dies. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what's going on there. But that was just the first 5 or so minutes of this episode. What it then went into was Hikarugo versus Bravada, and that was the shrimp versus the octopus. And I know he's not an octopus, but he's an octopus. And it was an interesting battle because it wasn't any Royal Guard versus main character. It wasn't a predetermined fight, but this is Hikarugo, who honestly I think can be considered the weakest of the group, being put up against one of the captains, if I remember correctly. And it didn't come down to any head-to-head interface or anything, but it was more Hikarugo trying to get the upper hand on Bravada, and Bravada trying to figure out exactly how he can return to the surface. So it was more of a strategy battle than anything, which I like because it's not like they're two incredibly strong characters that we know to fear or anything, but it was nice because you could see how Hikarugo is good at making use of the resources around him. You could see how he was trying to use the shutters to lock him in. You could see how he was using the hoses and everything so that he'd be able to, the shutters, the hoses, the gasoline, the armored vehicle. It's just like you're looking at him and he's just using all the things that are given to him in this space where there's no escape and trying to make a way to escape. And what was nice about it was the entire episode, as you can see, it was named Strong or Weak, and I will get to that in a second, but it's like looking at, I came to appreciate Hikarugo because he's not that strong of a character, but you can see his determination and how ready he is to do just about anything to help the guys get through with their mission. So he's already determined that Palm is more or less safe, but now he needs to get back to him. And even though Bravado isn't that much of a threat, then he still sees a need to take him out because anything, as we've seen already, then anything and everything can happen while these guys are storming the castle, the building, I guess, and trying to deal with the king and his guards. So what's funny though was, even though he is determined to help these guys out, even though he's ready to help out all of his new friends and he's ready to do everything, then it's, as the narrator put it, then Hikarugo can take over dead bodies of people who have died. If they're dead, he can possess them, but he has never killed anyone himself. And from the moment he said that, then I knew something interesting was going to happen because we've already established that the Chimera ants do still hold values of humans. And Hikarugo is a very emotional character himself. And to be given the decision himself as to whether or not to take someone's life, because you saw that he had his whole squad already and they were doing all the killing, but he never killed anyone himself. Even when he was trying to snipe Killua, then he was just trying to lure Killua into that cave, so this would be his first kill. And that was going to touch up on a topic of morals, I guess, because it's like, I've never killed anyone before, and will I be able to do it now? So I saw that something was going to happen there, and it's funny because exactly what I was afraid of happened, because he did manage to get Bravado cornered. He managed to knock him out with the sleeping gas in the elevator. He managed to, I guess, he more or less had his escape planned out because he was going to possess Bravado. Then I suppose he was going to do the same plan, break open the elevator, and then climb up. But he just wasn't able to do it. And he was trying so hard because he knew it was necessary. It was the best option. But he couldn't go through with taking anything's life. And then you just see him take off and lock himself back inside the security room and start crying because he's realized that even though he wants to help the guys, even though he wants to be able to make sure that they don't run into any problems later on, he's not strong enough to be able to kill anything. Even though it may be necessary, he doesn't have that sort of strength. So I think that was nice for Hidalgo's character in general, and it touched up on a very interesting topic. So that was nice. And then it went on to Morel versus Poof. And this was only like 1 minute, and I think that this is the most interesting confrontation so far because Morel has proven to be a very combat ready character in the sense that he's always running through situations in his head and he's always trying to find the best possible way to achieve victory. So he's here and Poof is still in this cocoon. Or at least that's what Morel thinks. He thinks this is a butterfly or a moth. He put himself into a cocoon and he's planning to change into something. And he doesn't know if there's any defense or anything set up, so if he attacks it, then nothing can happen. And he doesn't know if he should attack or if he should just wait it out. While at the same time, Poof knows this. And what he's actually doing is he's breaking off into little scales and slipping out through Morel's smoky jail. So what we're looking at now is they made it clear at the end of the episode that Morel's realized that something might be amiss here, and he can either keep standing around because his mission isn't to kill Poof. His mission isn't to defeat Poof, it's just to keep them there until Netedo defeats the king. But how is he so sure what's going on, and if the opportunity is there, should he take it? So it's interesting because you saw Morel fighting Leon and Morel fighting Cheetu, and both of those fights weren't any fisticuffs, they weren't any hand-to-hand, but this was really Morel analyzing their abilities and finding the best way to get the upper hand, and that's why he won. But he doesn't know Poof's ability. He doesn't know what he's capable of. All he knows is that this guy is strong, and he is not sure if he wants to go through with this attack or not, which is beneficial to Poof because the longer Morel takes, the more time Poof has to escape, and that means the more time Poof has to make it to the king. And that was where the episode ended, but my only complaint with this episode was it was slow. It wasn't boring, but it was slow, considering everything else that has happened so far, and considering how fast everything has been happening. Then this time, what we saw was an episode that showed off Killua's new ability, made promise to something big is going to happen with Youpi, and then we just looked at Hidalgo's character in general progressing. And it wasn't a bad episode, but it felt a lot slower than the episodes that we've seen so far. But overall, it was still a good episode. There wasn't as strong of an emotional attachment to any of the characters this time around, and it wasn't anything heart-stopping like some of the past episodes, but it was still a good episode, and it was nice. I guess it was a nice way to calm down the hype and everything, and it's gonna get a lot bigger soon. So I think this was a nice little break from everything else going on, and we got to see character progression in Hidalgo, which is always something nice because character progression is what makes Hunter x Hunter shine the most. So that was episode 119 of Hunter x Hunter, titled Strong or Weak. And that was my first review. And like I said before, here's to looking back at this about a year later and thinking, well, I guess a year from now I'll just look at myself and say good job, I hope. So what do you think about the episode? Just leave a comment, leave a like, and I will see you guys later. I will leave my link to my Facebook and my Twitter in the description below, and I will see you guys later. Good night.